Welcome back. This is our last video in our series. This is Terry Pugh from Elevated Learning. The last video got us to this point where we're using pivoted data to represent the email, phone, and website values, and the pivoted values as the values on the text shelf. Where we wanted to go with this, however, was, and let me navigate back to the actual report in PowerPoint. This is what we want to see. We want to see all of the yes values displayed as green check marks. So I'm going to return to Tableau, which is the most current version, 2018.3, and we're going to finish this report. By the way, before I forget one more time, recall I asked you a question in the last video about pivot field names and pivot field values that were both generated from the pivoting process that Tableau went through. I asked you which fields did it remind you of that Tableau already creates when it generates, once it connects to your data source. The answer that you should have come up with was measure names and measure values. I always call them the twins. When one is used on the report, the other one follows. They work together to allow you to manipulate multiple values on a report as a unit. So again, measure names, measure values would be the two fields that are closely related to the concept behind pivot field names and pivot field values. All right, let's go ahead and finish up this report. And what we want to see is just the yes values as green check marks. Right now, the mark that is being used, the symbol that is being used to represent the yes, no values is text. We want to change that. So whenever we're talking about marks on a Tableau report, you go to the marks card. Here in this drop list, we want to change from text to shape. Once we've changed from text to shape, the values that we want to represent using the shape are actually stored on the text shelf. So we want to change that or move it from the text shelf, the field, to shape shelf. All right, now that looks better. So the mark of the symbol that's being used to represent that summarized record of data is now a shape. It's just the wrong shape. And remember, we do not want to see the no values. So what you can do is simply right click on the no value and choose exclude. So you're filtering that data out. No need to show the legend. And now we have squares representing the actual values. Wrong shape, so that's not an issue either. Just go back over to the shape shelf, click, dialog opens. What you want to do is look through the palettes to identify which palette of shapes you want to use. So it looks like I want to use this KPI shape palette. So I'm going to choose that. There's my green check mark. I'm going to go ahead and choose the value on the left, yes, and then I'm going to choose the green check mark. Make sure that it displays over here on the left. I'm going to move this to the left so that I can both see the dialog for shapes and the report itself. I'm going to click apply to make sure this takes on the report, and indeed it did take. I'm going to click OK at this point. And the only other thing I'd probably want to do to make sure the size of the mark is a bit larger is on the mark shelf, controlling each of these marks on the report, there is a size shelf, or in this context, a button. And we can slide it to the left, making the mark smaller, or slide it to the right, making that mark larger. Now let's look at our PowerPoint report. All right, it looks like that one now, and that is exactly what we want it to achieve. I'm going to go back to Tableau. So there we go. If you have any questions, do me a favor and just send me an email at tpugh, that's spelled T as in Tom, P as in Paul, UGH @elevatedlearning.com, and I will happily respond. Have a good day. Thank you.